rather the language around it. And now the British press and some of the European press and even Asian is acknowledging that the language shifted on October 7th to one of panic and fear outright and fear expressed and so on, and that's precisely what we said would occur. Then we also said that the current type of language, the stuff you've been hearing out of the talking heads in the media and everywhere, will continue. We initially thought into about January and then about to February 19th, and now it appears to shade a little bit into March, but it kind of peaks out in around February 19th. But basically, we're on the long slide down part of a roller coaster where everybody screams and holds their hands up, and it won't let up until the end of winter.
So that actually brings me to my next question. So you're seeing in your data now, currently, that there is going to be possibly a recovery from this, maybe?
You're dropping out on me there.
Am I?
Sorry.
Your data that you're getting now from your technology, are you getting anything that suggests that we're eventually, like midwinter, that we'll come out of this low point that we're in the finances?
Not a low point per se. What we're saying is seeing a series of very large steps down, if you will, a series of interrelated emotional changes that suggest that we're going to hit another pocket of intense emotional expression about economic things globally, which implies that something will have occurred and made things a whole lot worse, and that pocket will trigger off a whole series of events itself that will continue us on pretty much the same emotional level of expression. I know a little nuance, and we live and die by the nuance in terms of the length of the projection.
Sure.
So we're seeing that, for instance, we've got a period of time here from now through the 17th is our highest probability. October 17th is our highest probability of what we saw as a form of government intervention in the sense of potential locking down of markets. And sure enough, a couple of days ago, we had the Italian minister and everybody start talking about, well, we need to lock down all the markets for a few days, let everybody cool off. Didn't necessarily mean that it would occur, see, but months ago we said lockdown would be showing up with visibility in the global media stream.
Yes.
And sure enough. So we get what people talk about, not necessarily the event itself. I sure hope that makes sense.
It does. And let me ask you, if and of course this increases with Moore's law, I mean computer power and everything else, as technology gets better and better, are the forecasts getting a little bit more accurate?
Yeah, but I think we should actually credit ourselves more than the machinery, because the machinery is just collecting more stuff for us and sorting it faster.
Yes.
It's still in a level of interpretation and knowledge about what we're seeing.
Yes.
And I've been doing this since 97 very actively and have been thinking about it since 94, so I've got a lot of history in it. And I've had a help of a lot of good thinkers out there.
Yes.
So we are getting more bang for the buck in the sense that when we're correct, now we're usually very spectacularly correct relative to what the press and the media and everybody will be talking about around the event. Now we have to be, again, sort of weasel words here. If an event, for instance, came up like the Northeast power outage, we forecast that fairly well, 3 weeks in advance, described where it would start, how it would affect people, and so on. And we did it around the word terrorism. As far as anybody knows, it wasn't a terrorist act. It was a natural occurrence or other form of cause.
Yes.
But the first thing that everybody thought about was terrorism. So that's our first and highest level of word that we got that was associated with that event. Make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay, so we were wrong about the terrorism, but we were correct about how it started, et cetera, et cetera.
Absolutely.
And we were wrong because everybody else instantly thought that, and that led to these other postulates, and off we go in this different line of thinking that helped us refine and get to where we are today. So the language ahead of us, at the end of this month and in November, late November through, say, about mid-December, is going to take a couple of very nasty turns, even from the state we're at now.
Yeah, that's not well. That's not very good.
No,
not at all. All right. Well, also with that, of course, it's kind of hard to believe that we're already coming up on election time. I mean, it's come up fast for me anyway.
Yeah.
So that brings, a lot of people, I mean, we've had psychics on the program, and people go, okay, ask them who the next president's going to be. What you got for us as far as that's concerned?
Well, we don't actually track that because of the issue around politics and religion is that they're very little nuance these days. People are seemingly in their expression more extreme than neutral, and so we don't really have a baseline from which to track. And to be honest, I don't care. To be absolutely frank about it, in my personal opinion, anybody voting Republican or Democrat is part of the problem, not part of the solution.
Absolutely.
That we have barriers to entry that provide for no other solutions. It's a corporatocracy. They're just providing an illusion of choice, and so it's a waste of everybody's time to participate with the scum at the top who control both candidates.
True.
Let's be quite honest.
True.
It's all controlled by lobbyists, money, and the powers that be. And basically, it's they both may be good men and be dupes, be unaware of their particular role. And in either case, we can't predict who would come out, but we do know certain language around the election that isn't encouraging for anybody. And that is that we show lots of words relating to confusion.
Oh?
Yeah, we started. Now let's back up. Last January, we were talking about how there would be calls for an early election. There would be language around an early election.
Yes.
Well, sure enough, that showed up in Ohio, where people were contentious about all this early voting.
Right.
We weren't correct in thinking that it would be national, but we didn't know. All we knew was that would be the language that would pop up, right? And so we knew that back in January, and we started getting indications as early as April and May that the primary dominant state of affairs here after the election, and we can't say how long that will last, is going to be confusion. And we're getting it in, and we can perfectly be wrong, especially in instances of this kind of thing, because there's no nuance to work in. Basically, it's extremes on either side, so there's just no gray area, and that's where we dig out our clues as to what's going to happen. But within the context that we have, this confusion element is going to be as emotionally searing, if you will, as what we experienced in the year 2000. Although that doesn't necessarily mean it'll be the same type of confusion that will be generated.
Yes. Yes. The last time we had you on, you allowed me to kind of take a look at some of the reports that you put together for people to go and see and kind of see the data as it comes out, as it's being reported. Going through it, I mean, it was a fascinating read to see how the data's tracked, how the different words are pulled out. Can you describe the way that the reports are put together a little bit?
Sure. It's actually quite tedious.
Yes.
But I have this program that is written in Lisp, which is one of the languages of artificial intelligence, along with Prolog, and that loads this software called IntelliCAD, which is a CAD-CAM program, and it allows you to construct an artificial reality to your specifications, basically a model of a 3D space. So I've created this giant 3D aquarium within the computer that I can twist and turn and go and look at, and I populate it with little pixels turning the color relative to particular emotional parameters, and the intensity relative to other parameters, and the hue relative to other parameters again, and their placement within this 3D space relative to a whole different set of parameters. And when I see a lot of these curious clusterings of similar colors and hues and so on, I go and poke at those little pixels and get a number back, and that allows me to go back to this giant lexicon of words and see what word is associated with that particular pixel. And that word is always associated with a context and cluster of words. We're dealing with very intense fuzzy set theory here, and then I go and I pick out, based on certain of those hue and intensity values, which one of the primary aspect and attributes of that word appear to be within that particular area.
Yes.
And we cluster them all together, and they kind of tell us the story, or they don't. Usually if they don't, we kind of wait because it might populate further, and that's happened before, and then that story might become evidence. So it's kind of like waiting to be offered to buy a vowel. You just have to wait for more data to come on in and fill it out.
Right.
If you get a complete story, then usually it's going to happen in a relatively short period of time. And that's what we mean by we start getting hints of things long way out.
Jeez. To get the idea that, and this is something that happened to me just the other day. I was had been up all night long. I was working on a bunch of stuff here for the station, and I was on my way home. And I come up to a red light, and I'm sitting there at this red light. I'm turning right. There's a car sitting next to me. It's turning left. There's only two ways you can go. We're sitting there at the red light, and I'm extremely tired. And something starts going through my mind. I started thinking, the light's going to turn green. The car in front of me is going to go to make his left-hand turn. I'm going to go take my right-hand turn, and a truck's going to come along and hit this car. Why it popped in my head, I have no idea. It just did. I just saw it in my mind. Light turns green, I start to go, the gentleman next to me starts to go, and sure enough, a truck runs the red light and almost hits this guy. I mean, it was so close, and I thought, what the hell? Did I just have a psychic moment, or did me thinking it cause it to happen? I mean, I couldn't help but think that. Now, if we take it on a collective scale, one has to ask yourself,